Hi, I'm Harper Simon. Welcome to another episode of Talk Show. Today I'm here remotely with Yogi, mystic, philanthropist, Sadhguru. Sadhguru, thank you for coming on my show. I was reading one of your lectures, and you talked about the importance of dissolving the personality. Do you think it's easier to dissolve the personality if you don't have much of one to begin with?
There's nobody who does not have much, everybody has, all right? Some may be subtle, some may be gross, but it's always there. Dissolving the personality simply means that whatever you have created unconsciously and created traits of your own, and these traits sometimes pay off, and a whole lot of times they are the biggest restriction on who you are. If you do not take the fetters of your personality away, if your personality does not become flexible to fit into any situation that you walk into, you will become a hugely restricted human being. Human consciousness can fit into anything. When you were a child, when you had a body which was 3 feet, you fit in pretty good, or were you tight-fitting? Now you're like this, you fit in pretty well. If you become like that, you'll fit in well. If you become like this, you'll fit in well. So consciousness, or what you call as human nature, is flexible. With personality, you're concretizing it, and what is rigid will break.
I liked what you said in the same lecture about people's likes and dislikes, and how, in a sense, we're prisoners of likes and dislikes. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
When you like something and dislike something else, what you have done is, you're unconsciously dividing the universe. And if you really look at it, how many things you like in this universe, they're a handful. So, you feel totally excluded from the rest of the universe. You exclude yourself from the universe with fanciful likes and dislikes, and then you will struggle with loneliness. That's crazy. This is an immense universe which has no doors, which is always wide open. With rigidity of likes and dislikes, which also creates your persona, you have shut your doors to the rest of the existence, and then you feel lonely. That's a silly way to exist.
But you can also relate to other people who share your similar likes and dislikes.
Oh, where do you find that somebody who likes just what you like? You won't find anybody like that.
No, but
Nearly.
but in a way, that's how people form bonds and attachments and camaraderie and work together and cooperate with a shared value system.
It's always better you meet somebody who is unlike you, not like you.
I agree. I prefer an unlikely friendship myself. So tell me, just going back, you were born. Your father, I read, was an ophthalmologist, and you went to school. You studied English literature, and you were a successful businessman. Maybe it seems like spiritual concerns weren't so much of interest to you in your formative years.
Spirituality was never a concern, nor is it now. It's just that spiritual process comes to you not because you believe something, not because you attach yourself to some system or organization or a scripture or an ideology. Spiritual process is when you realize there's so much of life that you do not know. What you're seeing is very little. Today neurologists are telling you, you're not even seeing a few percentages, points of what is actually there even physically around you, your vision. What the grasshopper sees you cannot see, what the owl sees you cannot see, what the dog sees you cannot see, because you are perceiving just 1% of the reality around you. So, when you realize this, that you don't know most of life as it is, wanting to know will become a natural process. The problem is with people, whatever they do not know, they believe that they know, because somebody told them something. So I was never really consciously oriented towards any spiritual process, nor was I religious, nor was I attached to any particular religion or anything for that matter. It's just that I do not know became the biggest statement in my mind, and I was a million question marks all the time. So if you have genuine question, you will naturally become a seeker. If you seek intensely enough, finding what is true will happen.
And I read that you had a consciousness-shattering mystical experience at one point in which you experienced…
Many points.
At many points, but maybe one very significant one that made you feel more in touch with all that was around you. What can you describe that mystical experience that you had?
I don't think I can ever articulate what happened within me as such, because what happened within me then and what happens within me even today, it'll never be articulated because it is just beyond any kind of logical statement. But if we have to put some kind of description to it, it is just that what I always thought as myself just broke on that day. In the sense, I always thought this is me and that's somebody else. I had no issues with somebody else. But on that day when I sat on this on this rock on top of a small hill, suddenly I did not know which is me, which is not me. What was me was all over the place. That may sound logically like insanity, but that is the reality of existence. If one breaks the bubble of one's persona, what is you is just all over the place. As you sit here, what you exhale, the trees are inhaling. What the trees exhale, you are inhaling. It's just that it's not in your experience. Suppose you sit here and experience this, suddenly your whole fundamental perception of life is altered. So, whatever I had perceived as myself, whatever I had perceived as the other, what is this, what is that, kind of evaporated within me. So, the very basis of how we perceive and make conclusions about life was completely taken away from me on that day.
I don't think that sounds insane, because I had similar experiences with psychedelic drugs. But what brought about this experience? Just one day? I mean, was there a set of circumstances that brought this experience on?
The the word yoga literally means union. That means the individual and the universal becomes one. I've been practicing yoga since I was 12 years of age, but I never thought it is going to lead me in this direction. I was just doing it for my physical well-being and mental prowess. It definitely gave me that, it set me apart. Physically and mentally, it set me apart in any group of people. But I never imagined something else is there to it. So, if you take psychedelic drugs chemically, it creates a certain experience from within you. What the chemistry does is this kind of a chemical drama which in turn creates a psychological drama. That's not what I'm talking about. This is beyond the psychological, this is beyond the chemistry of who you are. Yes, it impacts your chemistry in a huge way, but essentially what's happening is the bubble that you have created as myself, that's broken. Not because of any stimuli from either outside or from inside, simply because that is the nature of life. This is a living cosmos. You blew your own bubble and you think you're it. If you break the bubble, it's all the same. Where is your ego? You have an ego? No. I want you to look at this carefully. You will see whenever you do something nice, whenever you do something beautiful, you will always say, it's me who did this. Whenever you do something nasty, afterwards you look back and say, oh, that was my ego. So Mr. Ego is a fall guy who always comes in when something goes wrong. First fix this in your life, that there are no two people within you or four people within you, there's only one within you. If you have more than one, that means you either need a psychiatrist or an exorcist.
I need both.
Because it says…
I'll take whoever you got.
It says you're schizophrenic or you're possessed. That's not the truth. The truth is, you have created defense mechanisms to save yourself. Now, the important thing is if anybody wants to fix their life, first thing is to say, if it happens, it's me, if it doesn't happen, it's me, if I make it, it's me, if I don't make it, it's me.
Accountability.
I don't want to give it a name, but you must become an individual. Individual means you're not further divisible. If you further divide, it'll lead to sickness.
When you had your mystical experience, did this lead you towards a path of towards love and service and compassion?
I don't think I'm doing any service. I'm doing what I feel is the best thing I can do.
Well, you actually do quite a lot of service. I've read
That's what…
so much impressive stuff, and I should say, you have a foundation that's planted over 17 million trees in India. You have
24.
24 million trees, which is incredible. Another one that…
Yes, there are dozens of schools, rural medical care and all kinds of things, which are useful for the people. But what I'm saying is, see, if you do something for your own child, you won't feel it's a service because it's a privilege, you can do that. But if you do it for another child, suddenly it's become service because the heart is barren. If you have love within you, you can't do service. You will do whatever you can. It's natural for you to do all the things that you can. Because in one's life, if we do not do what we cannot do, that's not an issue. But if we do not do what we can do, we're a disastrous life. I'm not a disaster. I do what I can.
And do you want to… can you tell me a bit more about your foundations and all the impressive things that you do?
The foundation is essentially, fundamentally focused on bringing this dimension, because on that day that you were talking about, I burst into an ecstatic state and suddenly I realized there's really nothing to do. Every human being is capable of this, because when it comes to external situations, each one of us are differently capable. When it comes to inner situations, all of us are equally capable. So when I just sat there and just oozing with ecstasy, I thought, this is it, I'm going to make the whole world ecstatic. Well, here I am, 33 years since then. Definitely time has gone by. But we have touched a few million people, some 27, 28 million people we have touched. Today I can proudly say, there are millions of people, if they close their eyes, tears of ecstasy will flow in the morning for them every day. So, it's good, but that's not the world yet, there's 7 billion people.
Gee whiz, I wish that would happen to me. Do you think that we're headed towards a more enlightened society?
Tell me, just look at yourself in your life and tell me, on a day when you're very joyful, are you not naturally nice to everyone? When you're very happy, if anybody meets you, when you are happy. But when you're miserable and depressed, you could be nasty. That is true with every human being. So, all the nastiness that people do in their lives is just an expression of their own experience of life. If their experience of life was wonderful and absolutely pleasant, they would be pleasant and wonderful to everything and everybody around them. So, instead of fixing the root cause, we're always trying to fix the consequence by saying, I love everybody, I'm going to serve everybody. You're trying to fix the consequence. Don't try to fix the root, don't try to fix the fruit, fix the root. The root cause is, if your experience of life is very pleasant, being pleasant to everything around you is a natural consequence.
Can I ask you, you talk a lot about…
No, that's not a compliment, that's an insult. You talk a lot. It's not
no,
a
I didn't
pleasant
mean
thing
it
to
like that.
say.
I didn't mean you talk a lot. I mean, I've heard you say, you talk just the appropriate amount about people's mental constructs and kind of imprisoning themselves in their own misery. But what about people who are, where their misery is beyond that? What about people who are in actual circumstances where they can't help themselves? Somebody walking around in Nepal and suddenly they're under rubble. I mean, what about all the people who aren't hungry, who are hungry in the world, or suffering for reasons that are have nothing to do with mental construct?
There is physical suffering and there's mental suffering. If people, either because of war or some calamity, they've been brought to physical pain, that's a different thing that has to be dealt with differently. But 90% of the human suffering is mental and it's on self-help mode. Nobody's causing it and nobody can cause it to you. So 90% of human suffering is self-help, that they're doing it to themselves. First address that. I can't stop the earthquake, nor you can. Maybe we can avoid the wars, but earthquakes happen, what to do, all right? Those things have to be dealt with differently, physical pain. But everything that is psychological is your drama. At least conduct your drama well. How to conduct your drama? The technologies for that is what I'm offering in the form of inner engineering. To engineer yourself the way you want yourself to be. You don't have to engineer yourself the way I want. You engineer it the way you want, and I'm sure what you want for yourself is pleasantness, not unpleasantness, isn't it?
So, other than meditation techniques, what are some of the other ways in which…
Oh, there are a
people
million
may…
ways to do it, not one or two. There are a million ways to do it. For every person, we offer a different dimension. It's not necessarily one common solution.
And do you think, does that help to lead towards an acceptance of death?
Tell me, the only reason why death is such a huge problem is you know nothing other than the body. You have not experienced anything other than your body, so death means you lose this body, then you don't know what's next.
I appreciate your… I think that's very different from messages from other gurus, this kind of non-denominational, non-religious…
I don't know which other guru you met, but a guru means… gu means darkness, ru means light. One who puts light to areas of darkness within you, he's a guru. Not somebody who teaches you a scripture, not somebody who teaches you a philosophy or an ideology or something else like that.
So you don't… you don't believe in teaching any kind of scripture?
I don't know
in your
any…
ashram, do they not study scriptures?
I don't know any scripture, how will I teach any scripture? I have never read a scripture in my life, of any kind.
You've never read a scripture in your life? That seems kind of amazing to me. I mean, first of all, you're obviously a reader. You studied literature and…
No, I did not.
You didn't…
I did not.
You didn't?
No.
Oh, well, I read that, that's wrong.
I went to the college. That does not mean I studied, okay? Now…
You were partying.
There is only one thing I know. I know this piece of life from its origin to its ultimate, and it's kept me busy. It never gave me time to read any scripture, nor did I feel any inclination towards it. because my own vision has never failed me. I never thought I had to mix myself up with something.
Well, you're a fascinating, mysterious person, Sadhguru. And you do all sorts of amazing, wonderful things. And I'm very impressed with your foundations, and I hope I get to visit your ashram one day.
You should, it's a very unique place, crafted, meticulously crafted for self-transformation. It's something that one must experience.
Well, I hope to experience that, and thank you so much for taking time to talk to me today, Sadhguru.